Hi, welcome to the Profiled Corner. I started woodworking roughly 40 years ago, and around 20 years ago, the shell of my dream workshop was built for me. I thought that I had it made until I had to pay for the concrete floor for this building, which racked up around $10,000 in costs. It was at that point that I realized that woodworking is an expensive hobby to take up. Since that time, I've been trying to work on getting the shop organized so that it's functional for my needs. In the last 2 years, I've been making a concerted effort to organize the shop much better, trying to take advantage of the capabilities that I have at this time. I thought that I would share in these videos the struggles that I have with trying to organize the shop into something that's functional for me. If you feel that the content of my videos will be interesting to you, feel free to subscribe. And I'll share some of my tips, for instance, on how to use various different router bits. If only I could get away with not having to buy another router. I probably have enough by now. Okay, let's get these routers out of the way, and we'll take a closer look at what the PantoRouter has mounted on its table. Okay, on the PantoRouter here is a lathe jig that I created for it that allows the PantoRouter to do spindle lathe turning using a router bit that is horizontally mounted. Let me spin this around for you so that you can see it more closely. There's a 4-inch long cutter in the router right now that's used to cut this profile. This is an offset profile, which means that as the piece spins, the orientation of the piece changes slightly. And as this bit moves up and down, the template that's back here, you'll see that it cuts the profile sometimes, and then other times it's just cutting air. And here it's back to cutting the profile. And as we move it down, it's following the profile. And then it's coming back up. So the PantoRouter gives you the option to be able to create your own jigs and your own templates if you'd like to use them. This is just one example of a jig that I created. This leg was entirely created right on the PantoRouter without taking it off this jig. I did swap it end for end to be able to do the profiling, but as you can see here, this started out as a roughly 3 1/8 inch square piece of black walnut, and then I rounded the corners off, and then after doing that, I cut these profiles here using the PantoRouter. And then I milled this face flat. I milled in a mortise on this face, and then also on this face. I did have a problem with the router bit that I was using. This is, once again, a 4-inch long router bit with a 2-inch cutter length. And I was using an older cutter with the same specification. However, the tip on the cutter was bad. I had run it into a screw by accident many years ago, and it ended up destroying the tip. And so what happened is that as this bit was going around the template, around the pattern, the piece, it snagged in a couple places, and it caused the grain to raise up. And so I'll probably one day create another model like this, potentially on video, so that you can see how it was done. I'll include some pictures showing how this was actually sculpted using the PantoRouter. Let me spin it around a little bit more for you so that you can see the full jig and the PantoRouter. One thing I should mention is that if you do have a PantoRouter, that uses a Bosch 2¼ horsepower router, I'd suggest getting a set of Bosch offset wrenches for it. It makes it a lot easier to change the bit in the collet with this dust shield on the router, the dust collection shield on the router. So this is one example of a jig that I've created that we'll be going through and seeing how it works in a later video. Okay, I've made a few changes to the PantoRouter setup, showing another jig that I created. I've got a Portacable Omni jig that's probably about 35 years old, that's able to cut half-blind dovetails, as you can see here, One of the issues that I've got with it is that it takes about 5 hours to set it up if you don't have a router already set up with a router bit. And as you can see here, I've got a small gap in the joint. One of the neat things about the PantoRouter is that it's possible to create half-blind dovetails on it, even though there's no official solution for the PantoRouter for cutting half-blind dovetails. This is a jig that I created along with a template to cut those dovetail joints. Here's an example of a dovetail joint cut with a 1/2-inch dovetail bit, 14 degree, and you can see how perfectly it matches up. And that was done with this setup that I've got up here right now. In addition to that, I've also got a setup that I created on the PantoRouter that allows me to use a 3/8-inch wide dovetail bit. This was actually created using the PantoRouter, and the template fowler just rides along in these slots, and then it cuts out a groove in the board using a dovetail bit. So you can do a half-blind dovetail joint in a single pass, but unfortunately it's limited to a fixed spacing. I understand that PantoRouter is coming out with a half-blind dovetail jig system that will be able to create fixed and also adjustable spacing half-blind dovetails, but it's not released yet. They're working on it from what I understand. And I learned about that after I showed this jig to the manufacturer to show them that it is possible to create half-blind dovetails. That template was used to create this joint, and as you can see, it is fairly tight and it's nice fitting. Now, after 5 hours of fussing around with getting that portacable jig running so that it's cutting perfectly, I did use it to create half-blind dovetails in this cabinet. I was not familiar enough with my system yet to be able to use it to create the half-blind dovetails for the drawer boxes. This is another item that I created using the PantoRouter. This will eventually be an outdoor bird feeder that I've created using reclaimed redwood that I've glued up, and I have not yet glued together all the joints. But in the bottom, you can see that we've got through mortise and tenon joints that go into the base. And those are all easily cut using the PantoRouter. In addition to that, if I disassemble what I've got here, here you can see the complex joinery that I was able to create very easily using the PantoRouter. That provides a place for the plexiglass to fit in. In addition to that, I also have mortise and tendons in the top pieces, but I took it a step further. I cut a chamfer on the end of those those tendons that allow the pieces to be longer than they would otherwise. So I just used a router bit, a chamfer bit, and I just came right in through here and I put the profile on. That's something that was very easy to do using this PantoRouter, using the stock templates that come with the system. That about wraps it up for today's video. Thank you for watching. Bye.